Sepse pak flasship vazhdojmë në anglisht. Yes, dear Salonistas, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation to today's salon. And I hope that I can enrich this evening with some insight, with some evidence on labor migration, in order to have a fruitful discussion afterwards. However, at the beginning of my intervention, I would love to read a short fable to you. It's from India, and we can learn something for our discussion from that. It's the fable called The Blind Man and the Elephant. And according to this fable, several blind men approached an elephant, and each touched the animal in an effort to discover what the beast looked like. Each blind man, however, touched a different part of the large animal, and each concluded that the elephant had the appearance of the part he had touched. Hence, the blind man who had felt the animal's trunk concluded that an elephant must be tall and slender, while his fellow who touched the beast's ear concluded that an elephant must be oblong and flat. Others, of course, reached different conclusions. The result was that no man arrived at a very accurate description of the elephant. Yet, each man had gained enough evidence from his own experience to disbelieve his fellows and to maintain a lively debate about the nature of the beast. So that's the end of the story. And against this background, it's the idea of my intervention to approach the migration mobility elephant we have in this room. And I will try to present some empirical evidence on this topic from different kinds of perspectives in order to avoid the dilemma this blind man has with this elephant, and hopefully to equip you with some food for thought for the later discussion. So most of what I can contribute is pretty much well known. However, I think it's worth to compile some basic evidence on the topic and to deliver some clear key messages. And subsequently, I will try to summarize three what I call realities in the context of labor mobility. And reality number one is that the mismatch between supply and demand in Kosovo labor market can be seen as the main push factor for migration. There are many more push factors, but we think that this mismatch can be identified as the main push factor. On the one hand, we have a very low demand for labor on the labor markets. And I will not go further in that. This is a topic for another saloon for a whole evening. So let's concentrate a bit on the supply side. And we all know that Kosovo has the youngest population in Europe. And to add another picture, imagine a Christmas tree. And if you imagine this Christmas tree, this describes pretty much the demographic structure of Kosovo. So many young people and a few old people. So you have a pyramid. And this says to us that every year more than 20,000 people, young people, are entering the labor markets. More than 20,000 young people every year, while only 10,000 old people leave the labor markets. So we have much more young people entering the labor markets than leaving the labor markets, and this is a gap. And calculations show us that even if the Kosovo economy is growing, and it is growing with the current rate between, depending on whom you ask, between 3.5 and 4%, but this growth rate keeps this labor youth unemployment rate only stable because so many young people are entering annually the markets. So this is a quantitative mismatch on the labor markets. We have as well a qualitative mismatch. If I may cite the newest Kosovo Human Development report presented by UNDP, it says Kosovo's education system produces a labor force whose skills are obsolete and low in demand. So there seems to be as well a mismatch in quality, what is provided and what is asked for by the employers. So what kind of options do young people have if they don't find a job in regular labor markets? They can move to irregular jobs, so into informality, without labor contract, without social security, maybe without regular payments. So that's option number one. You can continue with education, start a second bachelor studies, start a master studies after bachelor, PhD study. So continuing education is an option. inactivity is an option, that young people are dismotivated and just say, okay, without any chances on the labor markets, I will not look for labor. And the fourth, and then we reach our topic, is migration. Yeah? If you don't see chances on the local labor market, or not so much good chances, then going to another country and seek for a fortune is one of the options. And in a nutshell, for this reality number one, we can say that mobility expands the opportunities young people have. It's another opportunity against the reality on labor markets. So reality number two is that an increasing shortage in single professions and sectors in many Western European countries could be identified as the main pull factor. Again, there are much more to explain the scenario, but this is the main pull factor. And if you remember our picture with the Christmas tree, now imagine a doner kebab skewer. Yeah? And if you have this picture in mind, this describes pretty much the demographic situation in many Western European countries, especially Germany, but as well with some Eastern European countries. Bulgaria has the same problem. Serbia has a very unfavorable demographic structure. So you have comparative few young people, and the number of old people is growing. So it's not the Christmas tree, but the doner kebab shape, with pretty severe implications for labor markets in this country. And let's look at the German case. The German Employment Service published a list, so-called white list of occupations, in which there is a country-wide shortage of skilled labor. And on this list are currently 36 professions, with a country-wide shortage of labor. A recent study provided by the Cologne Institute for Economic Research even goes further and says that you have in Germany a constant lack of skilled labor in 100 out of 600 professions. So in 1 out of 6 professions, employers don't find enough skilled labor. The Bertelsmann Foundation, who looked into one sector, namely the care sector, the elderly care sector, for this sector estimates that until 2030, between 250,000 and 500,000 professionals are lacking in Germany only. So, and it doesn't matter whether it will be in the end 200,000 or 600,000, it's just a huge gap, a huge demand for labor on this side. And so you have pull factor and push factor. And the last citation, the German journal, Der Spiegel, last week titled an article, "Two Options Against the Collapse of the German Pension System. Pension entry with the age of 75 years and more immigration. Both options unpopular, both necessary." So this is a bit the debate in the German case. So it's very simplistic, the facts I present you, and it doesn't explain everything, but it gives you some hints what is needed and what maybe shapes as well the discourse. Reality number 3, migration has been, is and will be an important everyday life reality for many families in Kosovo. And this, dear Salonistas, is, at least from my perspective, the elephant, or describes best the elephant. That in past, migration played a role, an important role for this country. It plays, and most probably it will play an important role, and therefore we think it's a matter how we shape this topic. It's not about whether it happens. I think it happens and it's important, so the question is how can we shape this? And you presented already the numbers of the size of the diaspora. I think this is known, the desire that 50% of the young people would love to emigrate from the Kosovo Human Development Report 2014. But what is written as well in this report is the strong desire of youngsters to return. But it's a conditional desire. They would love to return when they have the opportunities, when they have good opportunities, when there are good jobs, when there are good living conditions. And what the Minister already mentioned is that between autumn 2014 and summer 2015, an estimated number of 50,000 people left in, some say illegal ways, some say irregular ways, the country and approach Western Europe, mostly to seek asylum. Although the asylum acceptance rate, for example, for Germany is less than 1%. So for less than 1% of the people there is a chance for asylum. Interestingly, if we look now into 2016, more than 10,000 Kosovars applied for work, legal environment in Germany that provides for this opportunity. So we saw, or we can witness, a trend from irregular migration to regular migration. And if we hold it in for a second, we could say this is pretty much a success. Yeah, from 50,000 irregular to 10,000 who applied. That doesn't mean that they're all going, but they applied and the work permit was approved. However, in future it's about how can we shape this, where do these people work in, and how can we make profit out of that. So positive effects as well known, it's monetary effects on the household, on the macroeconomic situation, through remittances, through what I call the Schatzi spendings. It's a diaspora in July and August coming here and spending money, but as well through investments. Yeah? And if we look at the data, remittances and the Schatzi spendings amount up to 23% of the Kosovo GDP, 23%. If you look at the German GDP, this is approximately the size of the productive sector. I'm not saying you can compare this one by one, but or you can at least see the importance of diaspora, of migration for the country. Migration puts relief on the labor markets, on wage pressure. Migration has an effect on human capital development. If people get trained abroad, the human capital develops. Through remittances, people in Kosovo might have access to better education, developing human capital. However, again, we don't say this is perfect, and there's something we could much better manage and steer from the perspective of the ministry. Social capital development is a matter that is shaped through migration, through the exchange between the people who are going to other countries, through the diasporas, bringing in new values, ideas, norms, political ideas, etc. Many more effects, but as well on the other side, negative effects. The big word brain drain. If so many young people are leaving, isn't that a waste of human capital for these countries? De-skilling is another word. What are those people working when they're going abroad? When they have a master degree here and they work on a construction site, do they really make use of their skills? Question mark. Disincentive effect through remittances. If a family receives 400 or 500 euros a month, are they motivated to be integrated on the labor market, etc. as well? Question mark. So you have positive effects, you have negative effects, and the net effect is quite difficult to assess. However, I personally am convinced that the positive effects are positive effects of migration are prevailing. Nevertheless, through improved public policies, we think that this effect could even be enhanced. So, in a nutshell, migration is of critical concern for human development in Kosovo, for individuals, but as well for economic, social, and political stability. That's a thesis of myself, open for discussion later on. And against this empirical background, the ministry has decided to draft a kind of a policy, a labor migration policy, interfering in different fields in order to enhance the choices. And this is important. It's not about sending the people away. It's about providing them opportunities for choosing. And the priority is creating jobs in Kosovo. I think this is clear for all. This shouldn't be not for discussion, no doubt. Yeah? But as long as so many people are entering the labor markets, not all of them can find, even if new investors come, create jobs most probably for the next years. And for those, it might be a good opportunity if we inform them about the legal ways to go to other countries. And therefore I'm glad that Ministry started cooperation with the GIS, with the DMAC, to inform the people. I think this is one of the most important things, that people must know about opportunities, but as well about restrictions. Not everyone can go, there's not room for everyone. The countries ask for specific skills, for specific people. I think we all have to tell these stories. Together with the GIS, with DMAC, we start as well this kind of circular approach, asking the question, where do the people go? In what jobs do they work? And how can we attract at least some of them to come back and make profit of their educational skills? And maybe as well an important question, could we teach and educate youngsters here in Kosovo in a certain way so that the local economy can profit for that, but as well maybe the international markets can profit for that. And these are a bit the discourses we just started about. There's no single simplistic answer on that, but we started to discuss with many partners, and we are quite optimistic that in the next month, maybe 1-2 years, we could end up with some interventions with the support of maybe IMAC staff can say maybe something about returning experts. This is an excellent scheme where we can attract really people who gain knowledge in foreign countries to come back and bring this knowledge to this country. Okay, so that was that from my side. I hope I was able to describe a bit the elephant, not only from the ear, not only from the tail, but the whole beast. And yeah, I'm looking forward after the next intervention that we have a fruitful discussion on the topic.